Welcome back to Broncos Country Tonight, joined by Hall of Famer Steve Atwater. How are you?
Doing great, Ryan. Ben, how are you, gentlemen?
We're doing fantastic. I want to talk about the Ring of Fame. As we have found out this week, fantastic news as Mike Shanahan becomes the 34th member elected to the Broncos Ring of Fame. The official induction will actually happen next year. He'll be formally inducted, but we can celebrate this right now. What was your immediate reaction to Mike Shanahan being elected to the Ring of Fame?
Man, I tell you what, I was super fired up about it. He's so deserving of it. I thought he would have been in much sooner than now, but man, it's the perfect time. He's just a great coach, great leader. He knew how to motivate us, either by getting on us, which he didn't do very much of, but really just by treating us with respect and, great coaching. It was just a wonderful atmosphere as a player.
Yeah, they were able to sustain the Broncos while you were there, able to sustain a level of excellence for over a decade. Obviously, 2 championships, multiple playoff appearances. What were some of the coaching traits that Mike Shanahan had that allowed this team to have that level of success for so long?
Well, number one, he played the players that deserved to play. Now, you'd think most teams would do that, or all teams would do that, but I've seen situations where coaches don't necessarily play their best guys, and it didn't matter if you were a free agent. It didn't matter if you were a 5th, 6th, 7th rounder. If you could play football and you knew what the heck you were doing, you were going to get an opportunity to play, and I love that about him. And he was always just constantly trying to upgrade the roster to get better players. And he was just a stickler for details. When we go on road trips, he'd have every little detail worked out, and it was really kind of marvelous. When we get to the hotels, all the things were just perfect. So my hat's off to him. And again, he knew how to motivate us by, we had hat days on Friday when we won games. I'm sure you probably heard about the hat day.
Oh, yeah.
We'd be in the locker room after we won a game. We're like, hat day.
That's awesome. Now, Ben, schematically, we talk about the Shanahan offense quite often. You have Kyle out with the 49ers. You have Gary Kubiak with the Vikings, Sean McVay with the Rams. So that offense has been able to kind of sustain in the league long after he has left. Why do you think that it has such staying power?
Well, it's effective. I think that it's funny to me that 10 years ago they were kind of trying to call the wide zone archaic, and the pendulum has shifted. Now it's the vogue offense again. You mentioned some of the coaches that are running it, highly successful. It works. And so that's one of those things. Football sticks with what works. They'll flirt around. Football will flirt around with new stuff, and then the pendulum always swings back to what works. So I think that's part of what made Mike so great. It wasn't just, as Steve was talking about, his attention to detail, because, you have to have that as a coach, and that's a great thing. But also you have to have a scheme that, works. Yeah. You can't be Chip Kelly where you're gassing your defense up and down the field by running tempo on offense, and it doesn't work. You're not going to be long for the league. So I think of the combination of having those things, having the right character, having the right leadership, having the right attention to detail, and then, having a product that works on top of it.
How has it evolved, though? Because Sean McVay, what he seems to be running out there are obviously some similarities. You see some things, but it seems like a little bit more up-tempo. They're obviously running a lot more passing routes. What are you noticing there with Sean McVay?
Well, with Sean McVay, you get the cutback off wide zone. That's what builds it up. It's that backside cutback, and they're looking for those backside lanes, necessarily more than maybe the stretch or the outside zone stuff that you would see in the first iteration of the offense. Different guys have different tweaks. Kyle Shanahan has a ton of different passing tweaks to it. Loves to add that wheel route, attack that backside wheel route onto everything. Everybody's got their own little tweaks, their own little additions, and I think that's what I love about football. You take something that works, and then everybody kind of adds their stamp to it, finds something that makes it maybe even a little bit better, makes it more challenging to defend, and makes it a little more fun for the fans.
It's interesting, Steve, because as we're talking about Shanahan's offense and the level to sustain, you also kind of wonder if we might see a little bit of a chasing a fad, because you see with the success of the 49ers 2 years ago with the Rams, they went to the Super Bowl. So with those successes tends to breed other teams saying, oh, maybe we take a look at that. College systems have been in vogue for a while now. And I guess if you're any team, should you be looking to chase the fad, or maybe should you be looking into the past and trying to find maybe something that hasn't been used in a while?
Well, no, I definitely think in order to compete in today's NFL, your college, all the different levels of football, you got to score points. If you can't score points, especially if you're in a league where teams are scoring 30, 35, 40 points a game, and you're only scoring, 21 points, you're not going to win many games. So I think teams really don't have any choice but to adapt and find a way to put points on the board. This seems to be the best way to do that right now.
Now, we're expecting to see a little bit of a shift, though, this year from what the Broncos did last year along the offensive line, going to a little bit more power gap versus that zone blocking. Ben, is this offensive line set up for that? Do you expect to see a little bit of a variance there?
Well, I think there's some guys that are, the guys that are there were probably more designed for one than the other, but you try to get them as best you can. You coach them up as best you can. If you're a good football player, you know how to block. I mean, I think that they're mostly set up for that. I feel like Garrett Bowles is probably a better zone guy than he is a power gap guy, but we'll see what he's able to do. I don't want to knock the guy before he's had a chance to try it.
Steve, last one here for you. As far as the offensive line, I asked you earlier this week on Broncos Country Tonight, the radio show, about your belief that the Broncos could have a low sack kind of season. I mentioned Patrick Mahomes had only 17 sacks given up, or at least the Chiefs with Patrick Mahomes at quarterback. Can the Broncos be sub 20? How do they get there?
Yeah, I mean, sub 20, I think that's that's tough for any team, especially a team with a lot of new players and, having the coronavirus impact the team's ability to get together that much during the offseason. I think sub 20 is going to be pushing it. I think if we could stay sub 30s, I think that would be more than sufficient, especially considering Drew Lock's mobility in the pocket. He'll be able to get out of there and make a lot more plays than I think he'll get sacked on.